Good morning and welcome to a very wet and windy Dingle. I think we'll probably shift over to the static camera. We're wobbling up there. Okay, so I'm delighted to see you all back in person, and I'd like to thank the Bank of Ireland for their continuing support that make these things happen. These sessions are so important to us, to Blas and to the producers. I'd like to thank you all for your resilience over the last couple of years during BC. Our BC was 19, was it? Yeah. Okay, so during our public health emergency. We have asked them to switch the water off around 12 today. It's the only thing we can control, and money can't buy it. But I know that today is going to go very well. I'm not going to talk for very long because I'm talking all day today, apparently. And these guys welcome Annie, Brian, Malachy, Una, and Viv. And I'm going to let them kick it off. And don't be afraid to ask questions. This has been live streamed on the YouTube channel. And do we need to request for recording, Max?
I know. No.
Yeah. Max is also recording these sessions, so you'll be able to look back and check the answers. Okay?
Great.
Everybody are good with that?
Oh.
Stay away from the speaker. Right now, everybody stay away from the speaker.
Thanks, Artie.
Thanks very, very much, Artie. We might give him a little round of applause there as he walks the aisle down. You're all very welcome to the Bank of Ireland backyard of Blas. We're delighted to be here. I'm Sharon Noonan, and as Artie explained, we are on YouTube. It is live, it's being recorded, so it is going to be there for your pleasure afterwards. If you're chatting amongst yourselves in the audience, it could be picked up. Just letting you know. Don't be saying anything bad about me, I'll come after you. And look, it'll be great to have this afterwards for you to look back on, because this first session is the mentors that have worked with so many of you in the run-up to the awards this year, last year and the previous year. And we will be doing that mentoring as well later on this year. So there's a wealth of knowledge and experience on the stage, but equally there's a wealth of knowledge and experience in this room. And I'm here today with my big stick to say you've got to make the most of being here at the awards today and tomorrow. It's not just about next door and getting the glass. There's so much more that you can achieve, accomplish, and we're here today to really get you started and get you going. So I'm going to introduce the panel to you. On my far left, we've Annie Dunn from The Art of Great Food, former Harrods and Super Queen, recently relocated back to Ireland, has always been a wonderful supporter of Irish producers. So a number of them have landed in Harrods thanks to Annie. She's very much a new product development, packaging specialist. So you're going to see her around the site for the next couple of days. You're also chairing a couple of panels yourself, the next one, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Then we've Chef Brian McDermott, who'd be very well known to you for his TV and radio exploits, as well as being a new product specialist, new product development specialist. But Brian is also a huge advocate for wellness and mindfulness, and I think that's something that we're really going to get into as well, because it's a very busy couple of days, but it's also important to take some time to kind of soak it all in and enjoy it. And then we've Malachy O'Connor. Malachy's all about the negotiation. So whenever you're in that coffee queue today, you ask, who are you? Who are you? You make those new contacts. And Malachy's going to have a few top tips for you on the negotiation side of things. And then we've Una Monaghan, who's a new mentor this year, new for 2022, based up in Leitrim. And I think that's important to say, that there's a good spread geographically of the mentors here today. And then Vivienne looks after this space here for us over the couple of days. But Vivienne's also a PR media specialist. So, you know, you all have news to get out there over the next couple of days, whether you get the glass or not. They're good news stories, so you need to tell them. And then from my my perspective, I'm all about the social media. So if you are doing social media over the next couple of days, hashtag BLOS 2022 on all the different platforms, and be sure to be following us and liking us and commenting on those posts as well. So I'm going to start off with my top tip, and then I'll go over to you, Annie, for yours. So about the social media, we're all very, God, it has to be done now in this very minute. But over the next couple of days, you're going to be taking loads of photographs of yourself in different areas of your product next door on display. You don't have to put it up on social media immediately. You can put it up next week. You can put it up in a couple of weeks. So just bear that in mind, that if you feel under pressure to get those key messages out over the next couple of days, that is going to be totally flooded, all those different platforms. So don't be afraid to hold back and maybe keep it for a future date, okay? So, Annie, what's your top tip? What do these guys need to be thinking about now?
So I think it's an amazing event to be at. It's fantastic that we're all here together. How I would say you utilise the time is think about what you need in your own business. So what are the problems that you face at the moment? And I think in my space, sometimes it can be packaging. So you're trying to elevate your product and align it with the packaging that you have, whether that be branding or whether that actually be the functional packaging. Have a look around the space in terms of using it as inspiration, using it as, actually, I haven't thought about that format. And always think to challenge yourself to look outside your own category. So you might be in a really simple box at the moment, but actually could it be in a bottle? Could it be, in a different format? And have a look around the space. There's, over, 1,000 products here potentially. And use it and find the time in the calendar, because I do think it's quite a busy few days, and if you're selling product as well as maybe picking up your award as well as attending these backyard sessions, make sure you carve out that time to really walk the space and look at what others are doing and take inspiration from that.
And just on that, I don't know if Cara is here. Cara Murphy looks after the showcase space next door. So we all mucked in and gave Cara a hand, putting everything up onto the shelves. And I was very conscious of putting some things up that maybe had the labelling on the top, so you couldn't see them then from the front. And as you say, there's great learnings and inspiration to take from that. So do think about where on the shelf your product is going to sit. Is it up high? Ideally we want it at eye level, but it takes a bit of time to get it to that space. You might talk a bit about that now, Malachy, in a minute. But before we come to you, Malachy, Brian, we need to calm, take it all in, enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think the important thing about that, Sharon, firstly, is welcome everybody and good morning. Like, everyone is here for a different reason. They're here with a different expectation, but the fact is we're here, and the fact is we're sitting and we're just taking stock of all of what's about to happen. And I think that's very important. That's something I do every day of the week when I wake up, because no one knows what's ahead for the day, the highs and lows that comes with it. And that's for us all personally, but it's also transfers over and into our business, because we're all business owner operators. We're all the people that decides what's going to happen functionality wise throughout the day, and very much it's back to, if we're well, our business is well, and good people produce good products. I've been a big believer in that. So that message today for me is the same message as it is every day. It's, appreciate yourself first and foremost, the people around you, and the environment that we're in, and how lucky we are to be here. Regardless of the rain, it's only rain. It'll dry off, won't it, Malachy? You're sure?
So.
Yeah. So you got soaked on the way in. So we can move on from situations, and that's life. It's it's about resilience, and I know I've worked with a lot of you that I can see in here. So we talk a lot about resilience, and to me, resilience is just accepting something, dealing with it, getting on, and moving on to the next thing. So we'll do that throughout today. We'll change our mood and do it tonight to be sociable. And that's the opportunity that's here. Every conversation is a networking opportunity. You have the best buyers in the country from every retailer here. You've got the developers, and you've got a panel of mentors sitting here that have either worked with you or will continue to work with you, because really this is, as Artie says, the Bloss family, and I'm delighted to be a part of it.
Thanks, Brian. And I know from speaking to one of the mentees that you had last year about being a small food producer, you're doing the marketing, you're doing the accounts, you could be doing the product development, everything. And it can be a bit overwhelming. And I know you're great at having a structure to your week. Mondays for X, Tuesdays for Y, Thursdays the post. You don't deal with the post until Thursday. And it's very easy and tempting to go for those emails as soon as they come in, or look at the post as soon as it comes in. And I think that was a great piece of advice as well, just to plan your week like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, everybody is going to frantically run to their work, to their laptop, to their phone, you know, but we're no good to ourselves, we're no good to our family, we're no good to anybody if we're not in the moment. And, you know, one of the sessions I always deliver is, we are enough. And you have to say that to yourself. I am enough for you today, you're the audience. I'm enough for you in our next conversation. And the same whoever I socialise with tonight. So it's a bit of self-appreciation, and it's realising that you're in that moment, in that conversation, personal, work, family, or otherwise. And, you know, we'll have conversations around how you prioritise that, but I know I flipped it on its head, and I now know what my priorities are, so.
And as I said to one of my BLOS colleagues the other night, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So whenever you are out and enjoying yourself, make sure you leave enough in the tank for the next day and the next night. Just a little piece of advice. I have been that soldier, okay? Now, Malachy, we're over in the coffee, we're meeting people, we're out in the pub, we're meeting people, and we want to really put those negotiation skills to use. What are your top tips there?
Actually, my top negotiation skill tip would actually be a selling skill more than a negotiation skill, because the more effectively you sell something, then the less hard the negotiation will be. So I think the point that I'd like to land with people all of the time is that you've got something really good. So it's actually you're more than enough. You've got something which is awesome, be it a product or a service or a solution, and somebody needs that solution. So now at BLAS, or just every day of your working life, it's about understanding the power of what you do and what you've got, understanding that other people need that, and that when you're here for a weekend like this, it's about finding out, well, who could need my product, and that's really powerful, because it changes the conversation around. Instead of, please will you list my product and please will you do some business with me because I need some support and I need some sales, it's actually, I know that you've got a challenge or a problem and I've got a solution for it. Can we have a conversation about that? So all of the conversations, the networking and everything you're doing over the course of this weekend should be about finding out what challenges people and businesses and buyers and retailers and restaurants, find out what all their problems are, and then you match your offer to some of their problems. And that's a much more effective way to do business than asking for a listing and worrying about your pitch, etc. And you know, there's lots of other stuff you need to worry about, like your margins and your commercials. But actually, if you strike a relationship based on you have a problem and I have a solution for it, it's transformative, I would say.
And I think, you know, there's a buyer's masterclass tomorrow that is usually really very, very busy. But it isn't just about the buyers. Make sure you go into Eat Ireland in a day and look at all those different producers and put that thinking hat on to see, well, is there an opportunity for a collaboration with some of these other different producers that might be completely different to what you do? Maybe you could put a couple of the products together to come up with a new product. So that there can be a bit of negotiation around that as well.
Well, it's just you just reminded me there on every day, but especially on occasions like this. One of the other things you can find yourself in, however big your business or small your business is, you've got all sorts of problems and challenges. You're spinning plates and you're juggling balls, and you think you're on your own with all of those things, but you're not. Every other business and every other person has all of the same challenges. And a weekend like this is an opportunity for you to create a network of peers, actually, that you can call up in the depths of December when you have a big problem, because if you have 10 other people in the industry, you know, 5 of them have already solved that problem.
And I know Fallon always gives an example whenever I do the collaboration workshop about a producer from the north and a producer from the south that both needed sugar, so they came together to buy the sugar in bulk, depending on whether it was cheaper to get it in sterling or cheaper to get it in euros. So there's all those different ways to work together. So just keep that in your mind as you meet different people along the way. Now, Una, what about you? What are your top tips for everybody that's here today? What
Morning, everybody.
inspiration do you have for them?
Well, I won't even assume to inspire anybody, but my top tip, I suppose, is really about thinking, first of all, to stop and take stock of what you've achieved by being here this weekend, the fact that you've got this far, and kind of give yourself a pat on the back for it, because it's too easy to say, well, that's grand, did that, and move on to the next thing. So I think it is important to recognise that and realise that not everybody has that. So that's a USP that you can use. But then how can you capitalise on that? What next? So while you don't want to keep running on and feel you're on this treadmill the whole time, you do want to kind of think ahead, a little bit ahead at least, and say, well, where can I go next with this? Do I want to get new customers? Do I want to now start developing new products? I can use that stamp, that BLOS stamp, to say, I have credibility in the marketplace. I've got credibility among consumers, I've got credibility among buyers. I'm in that BLOS club, if you like, as a producer. And I think try and think about your business in those terms. I'm an award-winning business. What does that mean for me? Where does that set me apart? And where do I want to go with it? And use it as some sort of strategy development. And as soon as I start talking strategy development, people, I can see them all glazing over. And all I say strategy is about is, I'm here, I want to get there, how do I get there, and what are the steps I have to take? That's the strategy. Like, it's not rocket science, it really isn't. And if you find that's difficult to do, or that you feel you haven't got time to do it because obviously you're all very busy, you shout for help. There's lots of mentor help out there, through BLOS and other places. You shout for that help or ask your network. So you're never alone, no matter how alone you feel. But I think it's really important that you do stop and give yourselves a pat on the back and say, well, right, I've achieved this. Where next for my business? But then give it a wee bit of thought. It's too easy just to keep rattling on because you're so busy all the time.
So what you're talking about is people are so busy working in the business as opposed to on the business. And before they start the business, they do all this strategy. But then once they get busy working in the business, the strategy can go to one side. And I come from a small family business, and I totally get that. Nobody wants that million-page document that goes into a drawer and is never looked at. So to have those objectives every week, every month, every year, and for the next couple of days will make sure that you're being effective and you're achieving your goals.
Yeah, and I think I'm a big believer in accountability. Like, it's the old, what they call the Weight Watchers model, where you had to weigh in every week. By God, did you starve yourself for a couple of days before you had to go and weigh in? And I was that soldier. I probably should be that soldier again, actually. But, I do think accountability is good. So if you say you're working with a mentor or something, that you say, well, this week I'm going to achieve X amount, or in the next couple of weeks, give yourself a deadline. There's nothing like a deadline to motivate you getting something done, even just to have one tick off the list. It doesn't have to be a big achievement. I'm a big believer in, how you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So break everything down into something manageable. Get somebody else to do some of the work for you. Try and give yourself that one little win, because it's great. I love the, I like to say, go for the low-hanging fruit, things that are easy to do. And you get them done, get them off the plate, because at least that way you feel I've achieved that, as opposed to saying, well, they're easy to do, I'll do them some other time, I'll go for the big things first, and a month later you're actually no further on. So, try and make life easy for yourself by breaking things down into small steps.
Brilliant. And I'm going to come to Vivienne last, but before I do, I'm going to let you know that I'm going to be opening the floor up to questions after Vivienne does her spiel. So make sure you have your questions at the ready so that you can ask them and get that information that you're dying to get, and that everybody can hear it then. So Vivienne, PR, media, there's great opportunities here, locally, nationally, internationally. Tell us what they should be doing now.
First of all, congratulations, and you all have something new to talk about now. You're finalist in BLOS na hÉireann. No matter winner, finalist, it's all news. Public relations, it's about getting your story to your audience through the media. But also it's about public relations, it's about your relationships with your stakeholders, and I echo everything that's been said here this morning with the panellists. So how you're working together with everyone. So perhaps you meet the journalists that are here today. You've got Patrick and Russell from the Gastro Gaze. They're going to be speaking on a panel. Come along, hear how they talk, how they receive information, how they like to receive information. Sharon talked about taking photos of your awards. Always have a good photo when you're going to the media about your product. I can't emphasise that enough. It's really important to have good photography and good images of your food. Talk to each other here. As I said, it's all about relationships, so collaborate. Maybe there's an opportunity to work with another producer to create a new food product that you can go to the news again, to the media, and have something new to talk about. So there's so many opportunities here when you're with the BLOS na hÉireann award win. If you're in the line and you're trying to negotiate and you're talking to the buyer, that's your story. You've won something. It's award winning. It's worthy. Consumers want it. Knowing who your audience is very important. So, for example, you'll tweak your messaging a little bit. You'll be talking to the buyer differently than you'll talk to your consumer on social media. It's a little different language. You're going to talk more figures and sales. But with your audience, you're going to talk, who is that? Where's the solution? You're trying to find a solution. Is it for parents, your product? Is it for kids? Is it for athletes, sporty people going to the gym, a protein product? What is that? And how are you going to talk about it? through your social media networks or to the media, to the food columns. I really strongly advise that you check out the columns, the food columns. You know, Ciara Leahy's on maternity leave now, but Janine Kennedy in the Irish Farmers Journal on a Thursday. Fantastic support for Irish food producers. They love the story. Know your story. Everybody in this room has a story. I mean, I've heard so many fantastic stories over the years, every year, and through the mentoring panel when I hear what you're all doing, how you got there. I mean, it's a labour of love. You're really, everyone has a story. You're all extraordinary, you know. It's the most ordinary stories are extraordinary. So tap into that, find out what that is. Talk to fellow producers and ask them, like, how did they come about it, and hear how they tell their story, because we all have a story. So I really strongly suggest you tap into that this weekend. Talk to each other, try and talk to whoever you can that you're, it's about strategy again. What you're hoping to get from this, who you want to talk to. Are there certain people you want to talk to? Find out where they're going to be, come into the panels, have your questions ready. We're all here, and that's it. And Sharon said it at the top here, BLAS is not just about the piece of glass. There's a fantastic network of panels here. We're here to help. It's not just about going off with your award and then you're busy with the next production line and, you know, staff issues. I get that. I come from a family pub business. So I remember we worked on, it was a tough time, November 2018. We worked on a plan for social media because it's cost effective, and within 6 months the turnover had increased because we identified what we wanted to get out there to our audience, who we were going to target and how we were going to talk about it. And we had a fun strategy put in place. So that's really all my tips. I hope that's helped.
And what Vivienne's saying there about the photographs, I know a lot of people don't have the budget for professional high-res images, but your local paper is as important to you and your business as the nationals. So even if you get a photograph here today with Chef Brian McDermott or Vivienne, the PR consultant, and you send that photograph off to your local paper with a caption, a very short caption, that could be in your local paper next week, because they love success stories like that. And you don't have to have won a piece of glass to be pictured in that. You can just say, here's Sharon Noonan pictured with Vivienne Gleeson at the Blossom Éireann 2022 Awards. Vivienne was shortlisted in the finals. You know, that's brilliant, and it's helping with brand awareness on a local level. And that's brilliant actually for employee retention or attracting employees as well, that if you do need to employ people at a later date, that it's not a case of somebody saying, I've never heard of this company, don't know who they are. It's like, oh my God, I've seen that company in the paper and they've won awards, so I'm going to investigate this further and I'm going to apply for a job. So lots
we're
of
here. So it's also come up to us, and if you have a question during the week, the next 2 days, ask. We're here. That's what we're here for, to help you and to support you. And again, Brian has said the BLAS family. That's why we're here.
And I must commend the people who have come up to me and said, I was on that workshop about collaboration and networking because I had said down, that's great, you find me and come and say hello to me. Do not be sending Fallon an email next week and say, I didn't meet anybody. It was no use to me. There was nobody there. Nobody spoke to me. You can do it. I know it can be a bit intimidating at times, and there's people here that are well-seasoned networkers. It might be your first time here, but just go for it. We're all here rooting for you, whether you win or not. You're finalists, and that's a huge achievement.
Here.
So I'm going to open the floor now to questions. So I'm hoping to see a lot of hands being raised in the air, bearing in mind that it is being streamed on YouTube and it's being recorded, so it's going to be on YouTube. Hands up, who's going to be first? I'm looking at you.
Just say it's a
Go
good
for
it's a good PR opportunity.
It is a great PR opportunity as well. It could be on the YouTube channel, Good Woman. Now, tell us your name and your company.
My name is Mary O'Sullivan and my business is Bear Bitters. We're an Irish cocktail bitter solution.
You're very welcome, and thanks very much for being so brave. Doing the first question. Who do you want to direct your question to?
I'm going to depart from the script here and just say that, like, this isn't actually a question, but we were only launched slightly longer than a year, and we entered last year and won gold. So I was really surprised that we didn't have to continue entering. Like, I've heard an awful lot of horror stories of different competitions where we have to enter and enter and enter. So I just kind of wanted to say that, like, I've been telling a load of people that, like, you don't have to just be in business for years to win awards. If you go to Bloss & Hearn and you have a quality product, it's recognised and is recognised immediately. So it's kind of more what I wanted to say.
And there's so many different categories then as well, because I think Bank of Ireland sponsors the best new startup category. So, you know, if you are new in business, you can win that. I think is the best new startup people here from last year. Well, I'm going to come over to you then. I might bring you out here if you don't mind. So Temptation Patisserie. I don't know which one's which now. They're twins, identical twins. So tell everybody your name.
I'm Kate. Yeah, and that's Ruth.
Kate and Ruth. And last year, and you saw it online that you'd won. How did that feel?
Surreal. Like we set up in January last year, so to win Best Startup was insane in our first year. So. And
you've had a busy year because I've seen you at Taste of Dublin and various different events. Yeah. Electric Picnic, you're at Electric Picnic.
We were, yeah, no, it's been a hectic year, but yeah, no, we're delighted with how it's going and hopefully Christmas will be the same, so yeah.
And just on Electric Picnic there, I know a lot of people in the food industry might think like there's no, what would I get out of going to Electric Picnic? But there was a pavilion, it was all leash businesses there, but also it was in Minefield, so their Theatre of Food was there, and in the Theatre of Food, which is curated by John and Sally McKenna, who are very well known, and they are previous Bloss producers champions, but they would have had a series of journalists chairing different talks, so there was lots of opportunities to network. Did you meet some?
We met a few, yeah. We were kind of like rostered on for the stand, so you kind of met people if they came in and were on your time. But yeah, no, it was a brilliant thing to bring like Leishlow producers together and, you know, get the awareness for them. So it was brilliant.
Thanks so much, Kate. Do you have another question? That wasn't a question.
I have a question, actually, Sharon, for Kate, if I may. Kate, we met at the craft, and you had just, this is a PR opportunity. And your PR opportunity was a couple of weeks beforehand. This, at the end of October, is the Late Enterprise, or what's the show? It's for small business? Taking Care of Business. So that should be on everyone's radar. If you have Christmas gifts, that's an opportunity. And Kate, we spoke at Craft, and it was so great to hear the response you received. So the power of that, can you just explain what happened from when you were on air and the moment you went back into the green room, what had happened with your website?
Yeah, well, like we were only on for a couple of minutes, but the website sold out completely, and then we restocked what we could, and it sold out again. And the lead up to Christmas was the same, so it was phenomenal support.
Yeah,
so, yeah, definitely worth putting in an application for that show.
So that's still I think the application is open for the end of this month.
It is,
so that's another opportunity for people if you want to look that up. The Late Show.
And the social media can be very useful for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done.
Now, tell me your name and your business.
You want me to stand up? Hi, my name's Michael Harkness, and I'm from Latiawanas.
And it's American Street, I was going to ask you.
Latin American, Venezuelan.
What's your question?
You were talking earlier about mentoring. I think right now that's what we need more than anything. You know, we have spent 5 years doing street food at all kinds of events and festivals. And the production of the sauces, which my partner makes, they're very good products. Everyone loves them. But we need help now. You know, we don't know what to do next, what channel to go down to. We have various ideas about how to bring them to market. We have various ideas about packaging. For example, we use HPP tolling, which is non-thermic
high pressure pasteurization, yeah.
But in using that, you're limited in packaging, for example. So therefore, we use plastic bottles, which to my mind look, if you like, very cheap. Whereas I think that we're making a premium product. So we need technical support. We need mentoring support about the road to market. How can we access this?
So there's lots of different, Brian, I'll let you take it then.
Yeah, and thank you, and good morning. I know, Michael, I know your product, and I also know the position that you're in. And what I would say to you is when we sit down, any of us, with anyone, it's about what stage are you at now. And my first conversation, nearly feel like I'm having it with you now, is where do you want this to go? Because an award today is fine and it's great and it's a PR and it's a marketing opportunity, but it's also getting awareness out there. And if you haven't created a landing space of where you're selling the product, where it can be got, maybe it's a step too early. And I'm not suggesting that in relation to yourself, but it's about where are we now, where do we want to go, and what are our capabilities? Are we producing this in a home kitchen environment? Can we produce 200 a week, 300 a week? It's about capturing all of that information first and foremost, as far as I'm concerned, because there'll be different triggers throughout the mentoring process. To give you an example, I sit very frequently with people in your position, some more established. Everybody's wanting to go to the next level, and if you said to somebody today over a cup of tea, where do you want to see your product? They'll say, I want to see it in Dunnes Stores, I want to see it in Simply Better, but they're actually maybe not ready for that right now. So it's no different to the strategy. This is a strategy, but it's a mapping out strategy, and it's okay to have fantasy within it, because the fantasy is we want to be in Simply Better, we want to be in Dunnes, we want to be whatever chosen retailer you're telling me, but the reality is where we are now, gathering that information, understanding it, the capabilities of not just your site, your production, your kitchen, but your staff, what you have around you, and seeing, can you produce instead of 200 this week, 300 over the next week, and increase that 100 sales, because that's cash flow, that's going to make sure everything else happens, and then you can start to build the rest of it. In terms of reaching out, in terms of mentoring, I actually think there's never been more support on offer than what's on offer right now across the whole island of Ireland, and whether that is through innovation vouchers or reaching out through BLOS, it'll be available to you. You can literally look at this panel and pick a multiple of mentors that you can get one-on-one support, paid for, sponsored, and done through a really good program, and you decide that, and that is the start of this journey for you. Then that fantasy becomes a reality, and when that becomes a reality, that's your business. And that is what's going to make you feel good about what you do, why you do it, and love it, which is what we all tend to do. So.
Now, Una and Annie both have things to add. They're giving me the eye. And Una, you gave me the eye first, so I'll let you go first.
Fair enough. Well, I think the first thing is the fact that you recognise that you need mentoring and want mentoring speaks a lot about you. I think it's a very good thing to recognise, actually, I don't have all the knowledge myself. I need to be able to go for that. So I would mentor, obviously BLOS, my first year as a mentor with BLOS, but I've mentored up to nearly 400 people over the last 12 years through Local Enterprise Office, Enterprise Ireland, Intertrade, all the agencies have mentor panels. So you go to one of them and say, this is what I need specifically, and get somebody that matches your needs. What you don't want is a generalist. You want somebody, for example, for your technical problems. So I'm a food scientist, find me afterwards, okay. But you do need somebody that's going to help you answer that question. The other thing I'll say about mentoring is sometimes it's just about talking through what you might already know within yourself. And I always sometimes think about mentoring, I think, I could be a therapist, actually, because sometimes it is about just talking through those problems and giving somebody a chance to air what's in their head and then help you kind of come to that. Once you talk anything out anyway, sometimes the things become apparent. But just to be able to bounce that idea off somebody and for that mentor to say to you, no, you're not completely cracked, that's actually a really good idea. Or you're not 100% cracked, maybe this little thing we should need to address. But it is about that and then helping steer you in the direction. So the thing about mentoring is, it's the difference between mentoring and consultancy is the consultant does the work for you, okay? The mentor helps you do the work, facilitates you in doing the work, because the mentor's not going to be around forever. You're not your employee. So it's to try and get the most out of that, to give you that steer and to equip you with what you need. And then you go back again and again. So what people very often mistake for mentoring is that they only get it at startup stage. Absolutely not. It's for any stage that your business is at. If you're at some sort of a turn and you're not quite sure if it's the right thing to do or what to do, speak to somebody, because you will find the solution from them. Or else, as I always say, if I don't know, I'll definitely know somebody who knows. Okay, so that's about the whole networking thing again.
Annie, you want to contribute?
I just wanted to say that sometimes you need to flip it on its head as well, and not think about the production challenges and the factory elements of it. Think about it from a consumer perspective. So what's the problem you're solving? Who are you solving the problem for? How are you giving a taste of Latin America to Irish consumers? I mean, I haven't tasted your product, but I'm hoping to in the next couple of days. I imagine it tastes amazing. If you've been to Latin America, then my God, you're going to want a little taste of that memory. But equally, if you've not been, just educating consumers on what Latin American food tastes like is brilliant. Coupled with that then is, how do you translate all of that onto your packaging? Now, Una can help you work out the technical elements of HPP, and indeed there are probably other producers here who are already using that production packing option. Have a chat with them and figure out, maybe are they on the same journey? Are they one step ahead of you, and therefore they've figured it out? And then think about, how in that small pack that you have, what's the most important thing that you want to get across? And how will consumers find your product? And once they've found it and they've tasted it once, I'm pretty sure they're going to want to taste it again. But there's a little bit of a science to that. So incorporate that into your mentoring and into your plan. And I've seen lots of examples of great brands who had really poor packaging and really poor articulation of their brand and the essence of what they were about this time last year. And through the mentoring program, they're now on the shelves in there. And I had a buyer from Holland and Barrett pick up a product in a pretty busy shelf and go, wow, that packaging really stands out. And actually, I was like, that's great. Wait till you taste the product. It's even better. But there was something about the messaging that caught that buyer's eye, same as consumers. It's busy in grocery. It's busy in all the fresh fridges. How do you get your product to stand out? And I think Latin American food's not done very well at all in Ireland at the moment. So I think there's a huge opportunity, but you need to be able to portray that and get those messages across.
And in terms then of where do you go to get this mentoring and free mentoring, Fallon will be in touch with everybody about those opportunities in the next few weeks. But also go to your local enterprise office and say to them what mentoring is available, because often it is available from your local enterprise office, and I'm sure some of these guys sit on those Leo panels. And then the Small Firms Association also does mentors work, so that's 90-minute sessions, and you can get up to 6 of those. So have a look at that as well as from a practical perspective. Now I think we've time for one more question, because I'd say they're starting to announce the awards next door. What's your name?
Okay, my name is Patricia Roach. My business is Kitchen in the Heron, and I have 2 questions. Could I just give this to Annie, please?
I'll take it up to her, no problem.
First question. That's my first question. Okay. So, about 6 months ago, in anticipation of possibly getting more volume of sales, I printed off loads of labels. Since then, now energy prices have risen, and my scones are part-cooked scones. So you take them home, put them in the oven for 10 minutes, and then you have a lovely fresh scone. 10 minutes at 200 degrees. So I thought, oh my God, that's going to be a disincentive to a person who's on a budget and trying to keep their electricity bill down. So I par-cook them slightly more now, so you can take them home and put them in the toaster, and you have fresh scones in 2 minutes. So I have a little label that I put on the back with the cooking instructions, but I just wanted to ask the panel if they think I should put my little label on the front, not on the back.
Okay, I'm going to give it up to Annie there, and you can have a good look at it, Annie.
I love when we have a live example. It's always great. Isn't it better to have a live example than to be talking about something that we think everybody is thinking about? Firstly, congratulations. I think scones are one of the things that are so recognisable in Ireland, and everybody has a scone story, I reckon. So, and it is, whether you're on a diet or whether you're, looking for a piece of indulgence, a scone is such a comfort, isn't it? Yes. So, and I think it's great. I haven't seen yet anybody else doing the same product, which is actually, I like the experience for fresh scone. It's nothing nicer than the smell of it in your home. But the reality is we're not all great bakers, and we don't have the time to do it. But we like to be able to do a little part of it. So I always think if you can bring the customer on the journey to that, brilliant. I would say if that is your single biggest USP, which I would say it is, get it on the front of pack. Get it on the front of pack and make it stand out, because that's the thing that's selling your product. I think as it presents itself at the moment, I wouldn't instantly know that I can actually warm this up. And I think whether it's the oven or it's the microwave or it's the toaster, let people decide how they want to do it. Just make it clear that you can do all of those 3 options. I probably, maybe not the microwave one, but the other 2. And I think that people can be part of that journey and make sure that it's really clear on your front of pack. So my advice, and we can talk afterwards in a bit more detail, but is definitely promote it and make it stand out on your pack.
Can I ask, is it sold frozen or?
No, they're fresh. They're never frozen.
Okay.
They're never frozen. They have a 5-day shelf life. Yeah. And you take them home, pop them in the oven, and 10 minutes later you've got a fresh scone, or pop them in the toaster. And you look at the back, it says energy saving tip. Cut in half and place in toaster. Yeah. Now, you notice I won a gold medal last year for those. So
well done.
I had no anticipations last year, but this year I've huge anticipation and expectation to win gold again, so fingers crossed. Yeah.
So at the start of the session when we were introducing ourselves, I talked about understanding what the problem was. So are you clear about what the customer need is here? Because you have a bit of a crossroads in terms of how you communicate something. And it strikes me, without the first time I've ever seen the product, you're solving a couple of needs there in terms of for customers who want the experience of a freshly baked scone. They also want no waste. Yeah, so they don't have to do all of the baking and buy all the ingredients, etc. So that has to be the message that's on the front of the packaging. What is the problem you're solving?
Well, you will see in the front, in small print on the right, there's fresh scones in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
And then on the back, there's cooking instructions, but there's also an energy-saving tip on the back, which is pop it in the toaster. So I'm hoping that sort of, not everybody wants a toasted scone. They'd like the experience of a fresh scone they cut in half, and they don't want the toasted scone. So that gives the option of an energy-saving tip, or going full hog and having the fresh scone like you'd like it.
Well, I think if it's worth saying, then it's worth shouting about. So if you remember a product from my childhood, like a Donegal catch, they would always have said bake, grill, or fry, and it was in a big dirty flash, a red circle with white or yellow writing in it. And I'm not trying to cheapen your product, but if it's really important, you should shout about it, which is bake or toast, and stick it there.
I'm just conscious of our time here now. I'd be saying the air fryer. Everybody's getting air fryers now. Apparently they're very good in the oil energy. That's another one that might work with it. So look, we're going to call it a day at that for this session. Annie, you're back at 11 o'clock. Do you want to tell everybody what you're doing at 11 o'clock?
Yeah, so we're talking about prioritising your channel. So which channel do you want to focus on? You may be in a channel already and you want to maybe get into another channel. Or maybe you're just a little bit overwhelmed with the number of opportunities that there are and where your product actually solves many problems. How do you prioritise that and what approach do you take? So I'm joined by a great panel, I think 4 or 5 people on the panel, all from different with different experiences. Some producers that have been producing Brigitte from Burn Smokehouse, who's got over 30 years experience of working in different channels and will tell her great learnings along the way. To Laura from Indie Food is here as well, and Colin from Art Keen. So it's going to be a great conversation. I'd welcome you all to join me again at 11.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you to Annie, Brian, Malachy, Una and Vivienne. And thank you all for being here. I'm Sharon Noonan and you've just played a big role in the backyard at BLAS 2022. Big round of applause. Thank you so much.